Hi guys, so today we're going to be looking at multi-step equations. You'll notice that the video is a little bit more stable today. I am using the Elmo to do this so I can use both hands while I'm talking. So today is lesson 7A, so you should be on lesson 7A in your workbook. Notice I did already draw in some notes there from just like the last other lessons. Today is lesson 7A. And today, students will be able to solve multi-step equations by combining like terms and using the distributive property, and also check their solutions. Students will be able to state the mathematical properties used when solving equations. Remember, those are like the properties of equality, etc. And this is important for real-life problems in science, like average speed. If you were trying to calculate average speed, that would be a multi-step equation. All right, remember our steps to solving. Number 1, draw the line. Number 2, circle the variable. And number 3, start farthest away from the variable with inverse operations. So let's look at our first example. I'm going to go ahead and draw the line there. But I notice before I go to circle the variable, or when I circle the variable, I notice there's 2 of them. And they're on the same side. So that tells me I can combine these like terms. 4x minus 2x. 4 minus 2 is going to give me 2x plus 7. And that'll be equal to 19. So I had to combine those like terms. So here's our given. I had to combine like terms, so I'm just going to write combine like terms. And now I see it's ready to solve. So given, combine like terms. Now I draw the line. I circle that x again. I look farthest away. So the farthest away was the plus 7. Now again, we can read it out loud. 2x plus 7. The last thing I said was plus 7. So that's the first thing I get rid of. So instead of a plus 7, I minus 7 on both sides of the equation. 7 take away 7 gives us that 0 to cross out. And I'm left with 2x that I bring down. 2x will be equal to, now 19 take away 7, you can do in your head, is 12. I got there by subtracting on both sides. Since I did it on both sides, I'll write subtraction property of equality. And then I just continue. I see x still has a number on it. And so I'm going to continue a little bit more. I'm going to draw the line. I'm going to circle that variable. And then I'm going to look to see what's happening there. So I see the 2 is attached to the x. That tells me 2 times x, the opposite of multiplying by 2, is dividing by 2. So I'll divide both sides by 2. I'm left with 1x, or just x, equals 6. And I got to that step using the division property of equality. Property of equality because I did it on both sides. Now, if we did want to check our answer, we could plug in 6 to both of these expressions, and as long as we do our math right, it should work out to 19. All right, so I'm going to let you do number 1 on your own because that one is a pretty simple one. It is just like the example we just did. You might also notice that our screen today has this extra little part here. Did you see this lovely thing? So this is your Desmos calculator. That is a scientific calculator that can help you through this. This is available on MyOpenMath, so you can definitely use this while you are going through these problems. So for example, if I wanted to do 19 take away 7, then I could write, and don't bother with that part, I can delete that. 19 take away 7, we can see that we can even work out there. And if I need to take that answer, I would write answer, delete that. So if I wanted to take that answer and then divide it by 2, then I could say answer, take the answer that we just got, that 12, and then divide by 2. So it does remember where you left off, and it might help you as you're working through some of these, so that this math, this basic math, doesn't hold you back from this algebra stuff as well. All right, so I want you to try number 1 on your own. Don't forget the properties, so I'm going to write given right there because we know that was given to us. Now let's look at number 2. Number 2 is basically the same thing, but now we have decimals, so I'm going to draw the line, but then when I go to circle the letter, I see I have got one there, and I've got one there. Now what I need you to notice is the coefficient in front of this one is a 1.6, but notice you don't see a coefficient there. If you have your highlighter out, this might be something to highlight. Remember, when you don't see a number, there actually is one. That's that invisible 1. So there is a 1 there. That might be something that you would want to highlight if you forget that a lot. So we need to do 1.6 minus 1 because we have 2 x's that are on the same side, so they are like terms and I can combine them. Now if you just wanted to check, let's clear that calculator. If you just wanted to check using the calculator, we could type in 1.6 minus 1 in here, hit enter, and it would tell us it's 0.6. Now you should be able to do that work on your own, but just in case you can't, you can use that Desmos calculator to check. So I'm going to write 0.6x minus 7 equals 18. Now that I'm at that, I circle my letter again, and I look to see what I can do. Now, I don't have any other like terms to combine, so now I go to my steps to solve. Again, this was our given, and this was combine like terms. Combine like terms. Okay, so now we're going to say it out loud. So 0.6x minus 7. The last thing I said was minus 7, so that's the first thing I get rid of. The opposite of a minus 7 is to add 7 to both sides. Now, I won't work that one out in the calculator. I think that you can do that one in your head. Let's see, minus 7 plus 7 cancels out to 0. I have 0.6x equals, and when I add those together, if you need to use the calculator, I suppose you could, but you do get 25. And again, on the calculator, I can just click clear all, and then we click 18, and we click add 7, and we get 25. All right, so then our last step, we circle the variable again, and I see it's attached. So I'm going to do a division here. I'm going to divide both sides by 0.6, divide by 0.6. And I get, let's see, 25 divided by, so I'm going to take that answer, the last answer on my calculator. I'm going to hit answer. It kind of shows you right there that it's shaded in, so I know what answer I'm talking about. 25 divided by 0.6. And it does set it up just like I have it here in the notes. 25 over 0.6 sets up the same way. I hit enter, and I see it's 41.6 repeating. So that means, since it's a repeating, I can write that as a fraction. So 4 and 6 repeating. So I could either write 4.6 repeating like that with a little line over it, or I could write that as 4 and 2/3. Now, if you didn't know that was 2/3, on the calculator available, you can convert to a fraction. If you see this little button show up by your answer, that means you can click that, and it'll show you the improper fraction. And then you can convert that to a mixed number on your own. But that would be 4 and 2/3. Okay, so now on to the next one. Number 3, we also see like terms. So I'm going to draw the line to separate the sides of the equation. And I am going to circle the letter that I see, and I only see one of them there this time, but I do see some other constants. Now, the constants that are here are fractions, so I'm going to show you how to use this graphing calculator, this Desmos calculator to work out some fractions, just in case you forget how to do all this by hand. Now, if you want to see how to do that by hand, obviously I've got that work there for you. But let's go ahead and use the calculator with this. I do see that I can combine these. These are also considered like terms because neither of them have a letter. So I have 2.5 minus 7/8. Now, if you want to see that worked out here, it's right there. Otherwise, here's how we would handle that in the graphing calculator. I would type in 2.5, so 2, and then see this little A over B button here. That A over B button lets me turn anything I have into a fraction. So I'm going to back up with that too. And I prefer writing these in here using improper fractions. So big by the bottom at the top, 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So I'm going to write that fraction as 5 over 2. And then I just click to the side to make sure this cursor is not stuck in the bottom of that fraction. That way I can subtract the other fraction without that minus sign getting stuck in the bottom of the first one. So 5 halves minus 7, and I mean to turn that into a fraction, so I'm going to hit that button afterwards, and it'll automatically pop it up to the top, 7/8. So 5 halves minus 7/8 is what I have going on right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter there. It has it as a decimal, which it looks like it's a terminating decimal, so we can either leave it as that or we can write it as a fraction, and we'll change that formatting. So 1 2/3 is equal to 1.5y. I had more positives than negatives, so I know this is going to stay positive, so I write the plus sign. And let's go ahead and change that back into a fraction. So that's 13/8. All right, and I got there. That would still be combining like terms, and I'm just going to write combine this time, Even though those terms, neither of them had a letter, I would still consider that combining like terms. All right, so we drew our line. We're going to circle the variable, work farthest away. Now our step is to subtract 13/8 from both sides. So I'll write minus 13/8. Now I see I have some work to do. So I'm going to do that work in the calculator. Again, if you would like to see my side work over here, it's right there. 1 2/3 would be written as, let's see, 5/3, big by the bottom at the top. So right now I'm just using the cursor on the computer to get from the bottom to the top of the fraction and then to the side. So 1 2/3 would be 5/3 minus the fraction 13/8. And I can either hit enter or I can hit this blue button here. And that's a very big looking decimal. So I'm going to change that back to a fraction. And oh, it's simple. It's just 1/24. So we'll write 1/24 is equal to 1.5y. But you know what? I'm going to change that 1.5 into an improper fraction. So big by the bottom at the top, 2 plus 1 is 3. So that's going to be 3/2 y. Now remember, some of you saw this yesterday. Whenever we have a fraction attached to a variable, attached to a letter, the way we get rid of it is by multiplying by its reciprocal. So anytime you have a fraction, oops, that's not the reciprocal, that's the same thing. Anytime you have a fraction, you want to multiply by its reciprocal to get rid of it when it's attached to a letter. So you can see here I can cross out the 2's now, I can cross out the 3's, and I would just be left with y. And I multiplied by 2/3, so I'm going to multiply by 2/3, and I can see I can cross reduce that, and I get 1/36. So that one I just did in my head, but again, you do have, oh sorry, you couldn't see that, there you go. You do have this calculator option here that allows you to type in some fractions. So I'm going to take this 1/24, so 1, make it a fraction, 24. I'm going to click to the side, 1/24 times 2, make it a fraction, 2/3. So I can enter it that way, and if we change that back to a fraction, we see it's 1/36. Or I could still type in that division, but I do want you to see multiplying by the reciprocal is really the way that you get rid of fractions. I could have chosen to do the division operation on the calculator, but I want you seeing that part right there, the 3/2 y times 2/3. All right, so then on to the other examples. The other examples show some distributive property. I'm really just going to show one of those, the example over here underneath number 4, and then I will let you get started with some homework and trying out number 5. All right, so again, I'm going to draw my line, but I can't circle the letter really because it's inside parentheses. I see a number on the outside, and so that tells me I have to distribute. So 6 times y is 6y. 6 times -2 is -12 equals 60. That part hasn't changed yet. So the way that I got there was by using the distributive property. So distributive property. And we don't write the words of equality because it's not like we're distributing on both sides. We only write the of equality if you distribute on both sides. But we just distribute the 6 to the group it was right next to. And so now we continue from here. We draw the line, we circle the variable. The thing farthest away is the -12. And so the opposite of -12 is +12. 12 minus 12 cancels out to a 0. And we're left with 6y on this side. And on the right side, now we have 72. Our last step, circle the variable. That letter is attached to the number. So I'm going to divide off the number. Divide off the 6. Divide out 6. So now I have just 1y is equal to 12. Now, if you didn't have that one, and sorry I didn't write in these properties here, but we added right there, addition, property of equality, prop of equal, and right here we divided on both sides, division, property of equality. All right, so if you couldn't do that math in your head, I'm just pointing out one last time that you do have this lovely calculator listed right here. And so we could do 72 divided by 6. You'll notice the divided by looks like a fraction because fractions are division. Same thing. And it equals 12. All right, so there's our answer. The other one I would like you to do by yourself is number 5. So today, all together, I would like you to try number 5 and number 1. Please show me that you know how to do those two problems before moving on to My Open Math. Good luck.